welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi along with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is meeting a delegation of the European Union led by the President of the European Union Commission Ursula von der Leyen, as well as the EU Vice President Kaja Kallas and President of the European Council Antonio Costa. Now, this key meet comes right after India and EU signed a free trade agreement, which is set to be announced soon. Let's in fact take a look at the timeline of the India-EU free trade agreement. It's very important to understand how this India-EU free trade agreement actually came into being, because it took 19 years for this to finalize, and today is that historic day when we are seeing the free trade agreement actually being signed. So, let's look at the timeline of the India-EU free trade negotiations. In 2007, the negotiations officially were launched for a broad FTA or a free trade agreement that covered goods, it covered services, it covered investment and many more. So, in 2007, that's when this whole talk started of a free trade agreement between India and the European Union. Next, between 2007 and 2013, you can look around 7, 8 years, 15 rounds of talks were happened, but negotiations were stalled in 2013 due to differences. Now, remember that 15 rounds of talks had taken place for the EU-India free trade agreement to come to a conclusion, but obviously there were a lot of thorns that they had to resolve. There were a lot of challenges like agriculture that both the countries were trying to resolve. Then between 2013 and 2022, the talks remain frozen for nearly a decade amid unresolved issues and shifting of global priorities. So, then a lot of things actually took place. Geopolitically, priorities changed, and for a decade almost the talks were stalled and there was almost no discussion on the India-EU free trade agreement. Then on June 17th, 2022, negotiations were relaunched at the India-EU summit in Portugal. So, when the India-EU summit Portugal took place in 2022 in June, that's when the talks were in fact revived finally after decades. And between 2022 and 2024, multiple rounds resume. Progress is gradual with focus on closing chapters and addressing the sticking points. So, they tried to address all the sticking points over there by 2022 and 2024 when they were trying to discuss what the sticking points were. They were trying to make sure that all the chapters are in fact closed, because this is a massive deal, 27 nations that we are talking about. So, this is something that we are looking at right now, because that's how the timeline has progressed. It's been very slow, mind you viewers, 19 years, but we are finally closing in. We are on that day when early 25 rounds accelerate, and by mid 2025 several chapters are closed or are near closure. So, by mid 2025 almost all the chapters have been discussed on the various deals that we want to talk about. We want to talk about services, mobility, we want to talk about tech, we want to talk about trade. Everything is finally closing. In May 2025, the 11th round of negotiations were held between leaders of both the sides. So, we had the 11th round of negotiations held in May 2025, and they were trying to close as many chapters as possible. Then in July 2025, the 12th round of negotiations were held in Brussels, leading to a significant advancement. So, that's when we saw significant advancement. We saw both the parties agreeing to a lot of things. We saw them smoothing out or resolving all those sticking points that actually came to the fore. And then in November 2025, key round in New Delhi, including stock taking meetings on November 5th to 6th to review the outstanding issues. So then both the leaders, this is near the finalization stage. In November 2025, they were talking about how to resolve all the sticking points, smoothen out the deals, and in December 2025, the momentum builds towards conclusion with the target set for end of 2025 to early 2026. So they set a target that yes, now all the chapters are closed, we have discussed the sticking points, and it's time to finally ink the deal. And in January 2026, negotiations successfully concluded. India and the EU finalized the free trade agreement. So finally, they set that date of early 2026, and both the countries, both the blocs, in fact, agree to get that finalized. Now, formal announcement of the deal's completion with signing and implementation targeted for 2027. So, like we have been mentioning, it will take 6 more months for both the parties to sign the deal, and then 1 more year to implement it. So, by 2027, we will in fact see that this deal is being implemented, but today is a very historic day, because we are going to see the announcement of this. And like we have been seeing, that timeline, 19 years is a long time. It was stalled for a very long time as well, decades, and finally it is coming to see the light of the day. Let's in fact introduce the panelists who are joining us on the broadcast to discuss this further. Major General A.K. Sivach, Senior Defence Expert; Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, former diplomat; Sanjeev Srivastava, Foreign Affairs Expert as well. Thank you so much all for joining us on the broadcast to discuss this very important and historic day that we are witnessing today, the announcement. Let me go across to General Sivach first. Sir, obviously, apart from trade, the maximum focus apart from trade is defense, sir, because we are seeing a defense and strategic cooperation also being talked about between both the blocs. How are you looking at that?
Yeah, Shivani, no doubt about it. As far as defense is concerned, it's a very important aspect of the jointmanship which we are now trying to develop between the European Union and India. As far as the defense, three are the major issue. One is the basically is cyber terrorism, which is going to be discussed. Then also counter terrorism, which is also very important aspect, and then the maritime security. That is very important, especially if you have to see what's happening in Indo-Pacific and South China Sea, because the US is not paying too much attention to Quad now, and everyone knows that the China is not following the rule of the game, and it is basically doing what it is doing. So therefore, the security is very important between India and European Union. You know, the deal which India and European will sign will be the third country in Asia to sign such a deal. You know, Japan and South Korea has already signed a defense and security deal with the European Union. Now, the another issue which comes is, in addition to the defense, what will happen is the trade deal, which is a free trade agreement, which we are going to sign with this European Union, which is having a 27 countries bloc. Now, why it is so important is because, you know, remember that we are having 50% tariff, which is imposed by the US, and our exports, you know, we export almost $95 billion to US, and our export, especially about textile, pharmaceutical, as well as leather, jam, jewelry, and footwear, has been now suffering. Now, if we are signing a free trade agreement with European Union, you will find it a alternate market. That is very, very important thing which coming, because this free trade agreement with European Union is likely to reduce the tariff on all these items, only textile, pharmaceutical, electronics items, footwear, jam, jewelry. So that will give us the alternate market, and also leverage as far as the US is concerned. US will be under pressure to sign free trade agreement in time to come. So that's a very important thing. We are also going to reduce the tariff as far as the European Union luxury cars are there. You will find from it will reduce from 110 to 40%, wherein you will find this luxury car like Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, and Benz. They will become cheaper in India. Now, another very important issue is the mobility issue which is there, where the skilled labor technicians as well as highly qualified engineers, they will able to go smoothly to European Union. That's very important thing which India was banking upon and put pressure on the European Union, which they agree. Remember that the this complete thing will make a difference because the population, if you see of India and European, is about 2 billion people, and it consists of 25% of the world GDP. So whatever will be discussed between both this bloc as well as India will make a tremendous impact in the world as it is. So I suppose that four major points which are going to be discussed is free trade agreement, then is the security, then the mobility, and the resilience in supply chain. That's also very important thing. See, what's happening is over dependence on supply chain as far as China and US is concerned. Both are now saying, especially from China, we should now have an alternate supply chain coming toward India, coming toward the Southeast Asia, and dependence on China to be reduced as much as feasible. That's also again a very important thing. I suppose it will be considered a mother of all deal, though the trade between India and European Union is about 140 billion dollar. We have a surplus of about 35 to 40 billion dollar with European Union also, and it is about 2.54% of the total trade which the European do, and we are the ninth largest trading partner. But it will have impact on the psychology, because if India and European Union sign this free trade agreement, which is considered as a mother of all the agreement, it will put tremendous pressure on US also, and I suppose that the US India trade deal can be also signed in time to come, because this pressure will surely will make an impact on Donald Trump. Shivani.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, let me rope in Ambassador Gupta on this. Ambassador, the General very rightly pointed out that there is a psychological factor as well. India and the EU are trying to counter tariffs that are being put in place by the US. Time and again we see arbitrary tariff wars being announced, but we are also trying to counter China's growth. India is trying to emerge as a manufacturing hub, as an alternate for all the European companies and firms, and also looking at Atmanirbhar Bharat. What, according to you, is the most significant part of this EU-India free trade agreement, which has come to see the light of the day after 19 years, long, long, hard road that it has traversed?
Good afternoon, Shivani. You are absolutely right. It took very long time. Actually, the first negotiations started in 2007. But then they could not be concluded and then restarted in 2022. But finally, we are there. The agreement is being signed right now. I understand in about half an hour, the agreement will be signed and made public. Now, I see many things which have come out so far. The final agreement will come out once it is signed. But so many things have come out in press, and I will, go into some of them. Firstly, that our exports of garments, leather goods, gems and jewelry, engineering goods, they will become much cheaper and competitive in European Union. And all these products actually will lead to higher manufacturing, growth in the in the country, which means more employment to the people. Then there is an agreement on labor mobility, that the visas will be, people who are going for IT work and other assignments in MNCs in European countries. So that would enable our, talented manpower to move to Europe and do their work. Thirdly, there would be areas of what we call innovation, defense, and research and collaboration. These areas will increase tremendously, and I'm sure this would lead to what we call Atmanirbhar Bharat in terms of technology. The technological collaborations are very important with Europe. As you know, US has been hesitating to transfer technology, and some of the areas in which we need technology, Russian don't have that, high quality technology, and Europe has that. So that will give us a new, dimension. We will be able to develop some of these technologies in our country with collaboration with European countries. The next
connection over there with Ambassador Gupta. If I can request you to please look at that connection, Ambassador Gupta.
Okay.
Yes, now we can hear you, sir.
Okay, it's
Yes.
not okay. Yeah. So, there are many areas in which we will benefit from this. Of course, we have to give some concessions on some luxury goods, particularly the cars and electronic items, and to some extent on wine and whiskey. But rest of the products, we have no serious problem. In fact, it will lead to tremendous growth in manufacturing sector, particularly in job-oriented areas like textiles, leather, gems and jewelry, and engineering goods. And I am absolutely sure that once this agreement comes into force, which will happen early next year, because the two sides have to ratify, the Parliament of Europe and Parliament of India has to ratify it. But European Parliament is required to ratify, and that may take another 4 or 5 months. So either by end of 2026 or early 27, the agreement will come into operation. And you will see after that, within 1 year, our current trade, which is within 1 year, in 2028, we will see that our trade is gone to 240, 250. Is what I anticipate, and this will be definitely, not only one, as we mentioned, 27 countries are involved. So it's a great achievement, and this will also work a psychological factor, a pressure on US. US will now be obliged to sign the trade deal as quickly as possible, because they cannot delay it that long given the situation, with European Union. So I feel this is a great achievement.
Absolutely. In fact, let me also rope in Sanjeev Srivastav into this discussion. Mr. Srivastav, how are you looking at this deal? Because we are seeing a lot of psychological play after this deal, a lot of eyes on India and the European Union, because this is coming, this is finally seeing the light of the day after 19 years. We saw this discussion in 2007. There were a lot of sticking points that had to be resolved, and geopolitically the priorities were different, but finally now, when all the stars have aligned, today is the day when we see that historic deal. So as per your understanding, what is the most significant from this free trade agreement, sir?
First of all, I would say that whatever my previous two distinguished panelists have said, I totally agree. And to add to those points and to put forward my own assessment, I would say that this historic free trade agreement, which we are going to have with the European Union, is a very, very good news for the whole world, for the whole entire international community. And in particular, this message goes directly to the United States of America, that in this world of 21st century, and we are into the third decade of the 21st century, there are many alternatives available for the countries to cooperate and to prosper and grow. It is not that United States of America only will determine the order of the world, and that's what the message has gone very clearly with this mother of all deals, particularly to the United States of America. And I believe that it will make them realize, it will make President Trump realize, in my assessment, that he should give a relook to whatever he has been doing to his European partners or to a close strategic partner like India. And obviously, India-United States of America relationship has a very strong foundation, I must add it to it. And this relationship between India and US is based on our shared democratic values, shared interests, shared opportunities, shared challenges. But also it is true that new India under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, or even the India from day one, we never took our decisions based on any pressure tactics or any kind of intimidation or any such measures. And obviously India, whether it is our economic policy or defense policy or foreign policy, idea of strategic autonomy is the cornerstone of our strategic thinking. And that has remained and that shall remain in my assessment. And obviously, when we have decided to go ahead with this free trade agreement with the European Union, India will be enormously benefited. So will be it will be of the great benefit of the European bloc. All 27 countries are going to be benefiting enormously, and there is no doubt that because of the pressures which Trump administration has put on Europe as well as on India, both the countries have decided to go for alternative ways. Alternate paths are being explored, and obviously European Union has got a very reliable partner such as India, and India has also got a reliable partner like European Union bloc. So I believe that both the countries are going to have a very robust partnership in times ahead. Just our two distinguished panelists have mentioned that this India-Europe strategic partnership is not only limited to our economic and trade relationship, but it has a very vast canvas covering defense and security, cyber domain, as well as the labor and mobility and many such areas. I must also admit here that India is the most consequential democratic country in the Indo-Pacific region, and this Indo-Pacific region is the most vital region for the entire world in the 21st century. United States of America knows about it, and that is why they have been pushing this idea of Quad and many such alliances and partnerships. And obviously, China's ambitious designs in the Indo-Pacific region and the rest of the world poses a serious challenge to the United States of America too. But unfortunately, I must say that the kind of a behavior Trump administration has shown thus far in his second term. First term was quite okay. It was a good term, I must say. But the second term has been quite disappointing. And kind of policy pronouncements and kind of steps Trump administration has taken with regard to its allies and partners has created a lot of concerns. European countries, you say, the kind of behavior Trump administration is showing toward Denmark and Greenland, it has caused a severe, very, very serious concern among the minds of the European nations. And the NATO alliance is under threat at this point of time. And if the same kind of a behavior continues, then how Europe will remain, how long Europe can remain reliant on the United States of America. And that is why precisely Ursula von der, when she was speaking at Davos, she was mentioning all its concerns. And even I remember she has said that these changes, this kind of the changes in the US behavior towards Europe and the rest of the world is creating a permanent fissure in the international community. And that is why when these kind of changes are being done permanently, then the solution should also be found permanently. And I believe that it's a very, very big change Europe is going to have, or whether it is their economic posturing or the strategic posturing. I believe that they are also looking forward to have their own security architecture minus United States of America, and they may go ahead for such kind of European security architecture or European NATO, you can say in a way. So I think this kind of a behavior what Donald Trump administration has shown has forced countries, allies and partners to think in alternate ways. And that is why this deal has happened after a gap of 19 years, as you have mentioned. This process was accelerated because of the kind of behavior Trump administration has shown. And but at the end of it, I would say that it's a high time United States of America's Trump administration rethinks about its various strategies towards India and Europe. And otherwise, it will be very negatively consequential for the US-India relationship too, as well as their relationship with the European Union.
Absolutely. A very aptly framed assessment over there, sir. I thank General Sivach, Ambassador Gupta and Mr. Srivastava for joining us on the broadcast with all those expert opinions and analysis. With that, we are wrapping up this bulletin and slipping into a short commercial.
इसको तो फुटबॉल खेलना भी आ गया और इससे तो पियानो बजाने